have a surprise for you.
Very dark here.
We better turn on the light. It's a dictionary. Some of the words we have learned. Add as many as you like. It's yours.
Playing Hans, playing this character who, is caught up in what's happening, obviously has very deep reservations about it. I wonder kind of how you went about thinking how someone like that might react, how you yourself, as you were alluding to, might react, what kind of research you did in that regard.
I was very lucky. I found in a second-hand bookshop a book called A Day in the Life of the Third Reich. So it went from 1933, when Hitler was democratically elected as Chancellor, right through to the end of the war. And it had all the great spikes of history when he declared himself Führer in the second year, and the Olympic Games, and then Kristallnacht, and then all the horrors of the final solution. There was a lot of behind-the-scenes, rather nasty strategic planning going on. But the book also had details about what was happening on the street. The devastation of the impact of the Depression on that country. People were looking for a messiah. There were probably many different responses within communities. And we all asked ourselves, Emily Watson and I had many conversations saying, would we just self-protect our family, keep our heads down, and hope this all goes away and returns to happier times? Or is there an ethical line that you have to cross? I know statistically it was probably less than 10% of the population who became helpers. I had a phenomenal experience in some of the promotional gigs that we did for the film. We had a screening at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, and I met some guys who were in their late 80s, and this man came up to me after the screening in the wake of some rather cynical mainstream press having kind of dismissed the film as Holocaust kitsch. And he came up and said, I was 14 and I was protected by a man so like your character in a farmhouse, hiding in his barn for 2 to 3 years on the outskirts of Nazi-occupied Paris. And I owe that man my life. And he said, I found the film deeply moving, authentic, strong, and telling a story about not the big picture. We were never intending that. It was always going to be from a domestic viewpoint.
There have been, as you note, some criticism, some grumbling, maybe people saying, is it sanitizing part of the story? Is it not showing the true horrors? What do you make of that? I'm wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit on that point. You started to touch on it, saying that wasn't really what you were trying to do. You're not trying to make Shoah, you're trying to tell a different kind of story.
I think there was a bravery and an ethical honesty in those people that did cross the line to say, I will actually put my life in peril for your life. And I think that's the essence of the stories that Marcus wrote about in the book, because he heard them. We've been promoting this film, and he traveled with us on part of the journey. And he always said the greatest exciting part for him was, he said, my parents were just brilliant storytellers. I couldn't have been more lucky as somebody who loved language and ideas and narratives to have parents that just told me about their life in Germany and the life of their parents during the Second World War. And I think that level of empathy is a fascinating one, because we have seen some extraordinary films, if there's a genre, that do talk about, whether it's Life is Beautiful or Schindler's List or Boy in the Striped Pajamas or whatever. There have been a number of films about the big picture, but I'm hoping this story invites people into, it could be my home.